Hey, I'm gonna teach you some badass turns with the staff right after this coffee. First, I want to talk about when you can turn with the staff. When can I see these turns being initiated? And actually, it's quite simple. The rule to know is if you're turning from left to right, anything that you do here has to be the reverse over here. So if I'm doing a figure eight over here and I turn, it needs to be the reverse figure eight. It's really important to understand that as we do 180-degree turns, a lot of the directional things become mirrored. So this is a good time to always learn the forward version of something as well as the reverse version of something. Let's start with the most simple turn. And the simple turn is going to require the figure eight and the reverse figure eight. So if this is the audience, I'm going to turn 90 degrees to the left here. And I am going to do a figure eight. And I'm going to be referring to this as wall side, and this will be the outside. And let's think about what a figure eight is really. A figure eight is simply making circles from the wall side to the outside. So if you look, every time I'm at 12 o'clock, when I say 12 o'clock, because my thumb is pointing towards the top, which is 12 o'clock here, my thumb leads the figure eight. It drops down to 6 o'clock on the other side, pulls up a half circle to 12 o'clock, drops back down to 6, and this creates a circle between the left and the right. Left and the right. Boom, like that, right? So the trick is, anytime you're doing this transition from one side to the other, you can do a turn. So we're gonna start with this turn here. We're gonna move it over to wall side first. And the moment it goes to 12 o'clock, normally this would drop down to 6 o'clock here and we'd bring it back up to 12, but we're actually gonna use this slack to drag it all the way to the other side. And the way I want you to think about this is as I'm doing this, I'm going to drag this all the way down and over. So this is to the outside, but then it's going to finish to the wall side. So I'm thinking wall side here to wall side here. I want to finish my swing over back on the wall side. So it's going to basically be this big half circle that pulls it over to the wall side on the other side. If you can't fathom this, put your staff down and just make a figure eight with your arms like this. And the motion's going to look like this. Once we're at 12 o'clock, it's just going to swoop down and make a half circle all the way back up to 12 o'clock behind you, and then you're going to do a reverse figure eight on this side. That's the basic premise of it. With the staff, we're going to do this again. We're going to go to 12 o'clock here, and then as soon as it drops down, we're going to kind of pull it down by our hips, and you can see what's about to happen here, and then we're going to lift it back up. Now the reverse figure eight is no longer driven by your thumb, but it's driven by your pinky finger. So we're gonna kind of unravel this just a little bit. So we're gonna let this bottom end kind of pull itself up to 12 o'clock on the other side, all the way to the top. And then all of a sudden we're in the reverse figure eight over here. Again, if you're stuck, just use your arms. You go like this. Here's the figure eight, here's the figure eight. And then as soon as you cross it over, just make a big old moon, just like this, like a big old swing, and then pull your hand backwards from there. So here, swing, and you're there. And with the staff, it's the same thing here. The moment it crosses down, just pull it all the way down, kind of by the hip, and then let the pinky finger take over, and then it becomes a figure eight over here. So that's the first one. Here, sit here. Now we can take this in reverse as well. It's the exact same thing. Every time we do this transition over, we are going to pull it over. So we're going to go back to the wall side, and remember the reverse figure eight's the exact opposite. I'm looking at my pinky finger. I'm driving it with the pinky finger with the reverse figure eight. You can even see that my pinky finger even sticks out a little bit just to help control it a little bit more. When I'm at 6 o'clock and it pulls it up to 12 o'clock, we drive it down to 6 o'clock, pull it up to 12. When I'm on wall side and I'm at 6 o'clock and I pull it over to 12, it's going to be the exact opposite. It's going to almost kind of go like a half moon over the top of my head. If we put this down, it's going to be the same thing. If I'm doing this reverse figure eight, once we're here, we're going to swoop it down, and we're going to make a big old half moon this way, and it goes back to the regular figure eight on this side. So it goes whoosh, 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 down. We're going to pull it over, and remember what has to happen over here? I'm just going to push my thumb over the top, and that's going to take it into the figure eight over here. And remember, if I'm doing wall side, I'm going to end wall side, so we're going to end in the same spot. So here, it goes to the front, but then it eventually pulls itself to the back, and that initiates the new move. We can, thinking of footwork's really important with this, because right now, there's no footwork. You can just kind of turn your body to it, but you can also take steps with it too. So don't forget, like, as we do this move, you can step with it. We can take a nice little step. So like if I'm doing this, my left leg is forward, right? And I'm doing this way. As I'm pulling back here, as I turn, I can take one step forward and continue the reverse figure eight that direction as well. So we can get a little bit of movement in. You can continue the movement by continually doing the same move over and over, and you can kind of follow it into a straight line. Unfortunately, with the Instagram posts, the skinny posts, it's really hard to get this long line of movement. Now we're going to start with the other one. So we're going back to the figure eight over here, and this time we're going to go over here. So now we're on the outside as opposed to the wall side. It's the exact same thing, you guys. It really is. So once we're to the top of 12 o'clock, it's the same as when we're at the top of 12 o'clock here, except this time we're going to swing down by the feet and back up to here. So, and I'm trying to get back to the outside of this side. So before we're trying to get from here to here, now we're trying to get from here to here. So one more time, if I wasn't using this, I'm at 12 o'clock, I'm going to swoop down, and then as I take a step, I'm going to swoop up this way, and that allows the turn. Once again, if we do it with the reverse, you kind of know how this is going to go, right? If we do the reverse, it's going to be the exact same thing over here too. So I'm doing the reverse figure eight over here. Again, once we make this transition, we'll walk over. And I think it's really important to know also, when you do both of these, there's a difference between just kind of lightly patting it down like this and giving it a really big swooping motion. So swooping motion means I can pull my hand into it and do almost like an extension, or I can just do the turn. So depending on what you're trying to accomplish, this is going to be a lot faster, keeps it nice and fluid, but I can also extend my arm really big to get into it, and it'll look like this. Did you see the difference? This big old swiping motion, all that is extending the arm and giving it the snap, almost like a golf swing. So those are the main ways to turn with figure eights. The next one is the pinwheel. Pinwheel. As you're doing the pinwheel, you're going to learn to tuck this closer into the shoulder and let it tap your armpit. And what we're going to really think about is swooping it down. So do you notice how I'm making like a circle with the staff like this, right? The reason for that is just because I just want to make sure that you don't pull it over your armpit and then pull it to the side like this. What you're going to do is you're going to lose that circular motion of this. So we're really thinking about pulling it down into the armpit like this, pulling it back up, and you'll notice as I pull it back up, my shoulder tucks back and goes back here. So try this kind of triangular, it's a variation of a pinwheel that we pull to the front of the body. Here, pull it to the front. Here, you can kind of add some leans to it if you want to make it badass. And the reason why this is really nice is this transition. Do you see how I'm making this really downward swoop? This transition here is how you make your turn. So, if I'm pulling it over the armpit here, all I have to do is just take a step with it. And as I do a step, what's going to happen is it's going to pull me right back into the pinwheel. Now it's going to be the reverse, so you're going to have to know how to do pinwheels on both directions. And if I do the same thing, as I get this under my armpit, you know how I can just go back into this motion here? As I get it under the armpit, and as soon as it tucks in, I can take a step, pull a half circle, and swoop back. So now you know how I do these top spins. The prerequisite, again, you're going to have to kind of learn how to do this motion here, and you're going to have to learn how to do it backwards. And then the trick is every time it taps under your armpit, you have an exit point to turn. And it's just going to look like that. Whoosh, whoosh. Doesn't matter which way it is, it'll always let you turn. You notice I just did a full turn there instead of the half turn. That's just because what I did here was I just combined them together. So I went armpit, pulled it down behind the head, pulled it over here, and then I pulled it back to the armpit and pulled it back. So that way you can go here, here. So the armpits are great ways to turn. All right, the last move I want to show you is a little bit trickier, but it's sleek and I like it. So basically what you're gonna do now is you may need a mirror for this one. You're gonna hold it over your shoulder. I'm gonna hold this a little bit lower to give myself a little bit more slack. So it's a little bit below the center line. I'm gonna hold this by my shoulder over here like so. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just basically gonna take this in this V format. You're gonna notice it's like 45 degrees. So it's not straight like this and it's not pointing, it's right in between. It looks like a V coming straight on my shoulder, right? And all you're gonna do is you're gonna learn to keep contact into the shoulder. It's never gonna leave your shoulder, but it's gonna roll over to the other side like so. So here to here, right? And what you really want to do is keep that connection into the arm. You can notice that I'm pressing. My hand is pressing like it's pushing back into the shoulder to keep that connection point. Now this in itself is a nice move if you're just like doing a rotor, for instance. You can kind of pull it in a reverse figure eight and pull it through your body like this. But there's also a really nice turn that can come with this. And the way it works is, as you pull it over this direction, do you remember how kind of like how we pulled it in the armpit, how we can kind of turn with it as we swing? Well, we're gonna do the same thing with this. As we pull it over to the shoulder, we're gonna pull it down into a half circle, and I'm gonna turn up my body, and then you're just gonna do this in reverse. So now, it's gonna pull itself to the other side. So you're gonna have to take turns every time, but basically what you can do, you can start here, you can pull it through the head, pull it down, get it up here, and then you see how it's kind of winding itself back here, and then we're gonna pull it back. And over and back. That's one way you can do it. The other way you can do it is to turn the opposite way. So in this way, I was turning clockwise, I'm sorry. So if I'm standing here and I'm doing this motion, this is a clockwise turn, and then a counterclockwise turn back. If I go the other direction, it's gonna be more of an isolation. And I'll show you, I'm gonna show my back so you can see this one. If I turn the other way, as I move over to here, I run out of space. I'm turning into the turn. So I run out of shoulder basically because I'm not reversing my shoulder into it. So the way this works is I'm gonna turn into it, I'm gonna push it into like this imaginary half moon here, and then I'm gonna turn again and I'm gonna get my shoulder to match. So in one way I turn to meet it with my other shoulder, and the other way I turn it to create space. So I have to do something with the space, so we're gonna isolate it. One more time, it's gonna go like this. We're gonna pull it over to here. I'm gonna turn, all of a sudden this is broke. I create a break, so my shoulder's not connected with this. So then I'm gonna do one more 90-degree turn, and I'm just gonna twist it like this. So it'll look like this. And that's plenty of staff turns for you for now. Hope you enjoyed. Leave a comment, leave a message, leave a like, subscribe, blah, 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 blah. You know how it goes.